The 1980s, the decade that gave us Lawrence Taylor, Jerry Rice, Bo Jackson, Dan Marino. The most talent-rich era in NFL history, and the decade where our search gets truly dangerous. Because in the 80s, the gems weren't just hidden in round 3 or round 5. Some were 1 pick away. Some were 15 picks away. And some, the number 1 pick never even showed up to play. Let's go find them. 1980. Detroit holds the first overall pick. They want a weapon. They take Vinny Testaverde, the Heisman winner from Oklahoma. Electric from day one, Offensive Rookie of the Year, 3 Pro Bowls in his first 3 seasons. 58. Sims was a superstar, but his flame burned out too fast. A catastrophic knee injury in 1984 ended all after just 5 seasons. And while Detroit celebrated their weapon, Cincinnati made the smartest decision in franchise history, just 2 picks later. Pick 3. The Bengals draft Anthony Munoz. The scouts had concerns about his college knee injuries. Cincinnati ignored them. Best decision they ever made. 58 versus 138. Vinny Testaverde gave Detroit a few years of magic. Munoz gave Cincinnati 13 years of absolute dominance. The greatest offensive tackle in NFL history, found at pick 3. 1981. New Orleans wants to ground and pound. They take George Rogers, the Heisman winning back from South Carolina. He led the league in rushing as a rookie, won a Super Bowl ring later in his career. A triumph. But 46 points for a number 1 pick is a modest return. Because one heartbeat later, at pick 2, the New York Giants found a hurricane. His name was Lawrence Taylor. The world would simply know him as LT. 46 versus 146. A gap of exactly 100 points. LT didn't just play linebacker. He weaponized the position. He was so disruptive that offenses invented an entirely new role, the blind side protector, just to try to stop him. In 1981, the chosen one was right there at pick 2. And he changed the NFL forever. 1982. New England wants a defensive anchor. They take Kenneth Sims, a towering defensive end from Texas. A can't-miss prospect. The man who was supposed to terrorize quarterbacks for a decade. 31. The star never shone. And while New England waited for their investment to arrive, the Los Angeles Raiders at pick 10 found a player 9 teams had passed on. The Heisman winner from USC, labeled too slow by some scouts. Allen spent the next 16 years proving them wrong. 31 versus 104. New England got a rotational piece. The Raiders got a cornerstone of their championship identity. Runner, receiver, goal line specialist. He played until he was 37. In 1982, heart and versatility outperformed every draft pedigree on the board. 1983, the greatest quarterback class in human history. 6 QBs taken in the first round. But before a single pass was thrown, the NFL witnessed a high-stakes game of poker that changed the league forever. Baltimore holds the first pick. They want Elway. Elway has other plans. He looks at Baltimore and declares, "I'm not playing there." He uses his leverage as a New York Yankees baseball prospect to force a trade. He was the chosen one, who chose his own destiny. He lands in Denver. 140. Elway was everything bit as good as advertised. But 1983 wasn't just about the first pick. It was about the player that 26 teams were too afraid to touch. The slide. Dan Marino, the most prolific pure passer of his generation, fell all the way to pick 27. Rumors, bad intel. 26 front offices convinced themselves out of a generational talent. Don Shula and Miami finally stopped the bleeding. 140 versus 145. Elway won the rings. Marino owns the stats. And our search gives the statistical edge to the man that 26 teams let walk by. Add in Bruce Matthews, an offensive lineman so durable he played 19 seasons, AV 138, found at pick 9 in 1983, becomes the most talent-dense draft in NFL history. The gems weren't hidden. They were everywhere. And still, teams got it wrong. 1984. After the earthquake of '83, the league needs stability. New England makes history selecting Irving Fryar, the first wide receiver ever taken with the number 1 overall pick. He played until the year 2000. 80. A strong, respectable career for a top pick. But in 1984, the true franchise-altering value was hidden in round 2, waiting for a team to trust a lefty with a thunderous nickname. Pick 38, Cincinnati, Boomer Esiason. While the rest of the league chased the next Elway or Marino in round 1, the Bengals waited and landed a future NFL MVP. 80 versus 106. Fryar gave New England 2 decades of reliability. Esiason gave Cincinnati a championship-caliber identity. A second-round quarterback with a left arm that defined an era. 1985. Buffalo holds the first overall pick. They take Bruce Smith, a defensive end from Virginia Tech. The perfect pick. Smith didn't just meet expectations, he shattered them. 152. In any other year, Bruce Smith is the undisputed gem. Undisputed. But 1985 had one more name on the board. A kid from a small school called Mississippi Valley State. A kid that 15 teams decided to pass on. Pick 16. Bill Walsh and San Francisco trade up to steal him. Jerry Rice. What followed was a career that defied logic. 152 versus 160. The highest value duo in draft history. Buffalo got the greatest pass rusher ever at pick 1. San Francisco found the greatest of all time at pick 16. 1985 proved that even when you make the perfect choice at the top, the search might still find something greater hidden 15 spots lower. 1986. Tampa Bay holds the first pick. They want the greatest athlete on the planet, Bo Jackson. There was just one problem. Bo had told Tampa not to draft him after a team visit cost him his college baseball eligibility. Tampa ignored the warning. Bo ignored the contract. He chose baseball instead. The Buccaneers were left without absolutely nothing. 22. A number deflated by a late start and a tragic injury. Bo Jackson was a cultural phenomenon, but for Tampa Bay, he was a ghost. And while the Buccaneers were left empty-handed, New Orleans was digging for gold in round 3. Pick 60. The Saints select Pat Swilling. Not a global superstar, just a pass-rushing nightmare who delivered elite pressure for over a decade, becoming a cornerstone of the legendary Dome Patrol defense. 22 versus 98. The number 1 pick was hitting home runs in Kansas City. Pat Swilling was hitting quarterbacks in New Orleans. A draft pick is only as good as the player's willingness to suit up. In 1986, only one of them did. 1987. After the humiliation of the last year, Tampa Bay needs a leader. They take Vinny Testaverde, the Heisman winner from the University of Miami. Vinny would play 21 seasons for 7 different teams until he was 44 years old, a professional's professional. 97. Testaverde was a survivor, fueled by extreme longevity. But while Vinny was preparing for a 2-decade marathon, Pittsburgh was sitting at pick 10, about to find a player who would spend those same 2 decades taking the ball away. Pick 10. The Steelers find Rod Woodson, an Olympic-level athlete who evolved into the most dangerous defensive back of his era. Corner, safety, returner. He was a magnet for the football. 97 versus 142. Testaverde gave the league quantity. Woodson gave the league pure, unadulterated quality. The ball hawk from Purdue, found at pick 10, retired as one of the greatest defensive players in NFL history. 1988. Atlanta holds the first pick. They see Aundray Bruce, a linebacker from Auburn with the build of a gladiator and the speed of a sprinter. The consensus can't miss prospect. But transition to the pros would reveal a different story. 24. Not a total failure, but for a number 1 pick, it's devastating. He became a journeyman, a ghost of the player everyone expected him to be. And while Atlanta watched their investment fade, Minnesota was waiting at pick 19 for a player who would define the very concept of consistency. Pick 19. The Vikings select Randall McDaniel. No flash, no ego, just a silent assassin in the trenches, dominating for 14 straight seasons without missing a bit. 24 versus 129. One of the most loop-sided comparisons in draft history. Atlanta chased the ghost of a superstar. Minnesota found an iron guard. In 1988, the chosen one wasn't the loudest name in the room. He was the quietest man in the trenches, 18 spots lower. 1989. The decade closes with a draft so extraordinary it felt like the league was showing off. Dallas, at the start of their rebuilding project, takes Troy Aikman with the first overall pick. 3 Super Bowl rings, the polished face of America's team. 96. Aikman was the perfect leader and the rightful Hall of Famer. But in 1989, solid wasn't the ceiling. Because at picks 3 and 5, the league was taken over by 2 men named Sanders. Pick 3, Detroit takes Barry Sanders, a magician who turned broken plays into touchdowns. Pick 5, Atlanta takes Deion Primetime Sanders, a man who defined the cornerback position and turned the NFL into a global entertainment spectacle. 96 versus 120 and 127. Aikman held the trophies. The Sanders duo held the true value of the era. Barry retired at his peak on his own terms. Deion shut down entire fields. In 1989, the chosen one could wear many faces, and he was wearing 2 of them at picks 3 and 5. 10 drafts, 10 searches. In the 80s rewrote the rules of what we were looking for. The highest AV scores in the entire series, Rice at 160, LT at 146, and Marino at 145, none of them were picked number 1. And in 1986, the number 1 pick never played a single down. The 80s proved something the 70s only hinted at. The gap between the name on the top of the board and the real gem of the draft can be measured in hundreds of points of career value. The 90s bring dynasties, free agency, and a new kind of draft chaos. I'm Victor Francisco for the Global Sideline. The search continues on the next video.